How are you, Clark?
I'm terrific, Rich. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How do you see tonight's matchup?
I know, you know what, it's interesting. Villanova clearly deserves to be the favorite. They've been as impressive as any team in recent tournament memory, the way they've shot it, they've defended at a better level. But you go back and sometimes these overwhelming or large favorites in a one-game situation run into a team that plays good enough to beat them. And Michigan has that capacity and capability. They defend at a good level. They've got a very versatile and mobile and skilled big guy in Mo Wagner. The key is going to be, can Michigan defend, but more importantly, can they score well enough from multiple positions to keep up with that high-octane offense of Villanova. And I think it's doable, but it's going to take a lot of pieces moving well together to make it happen.
What makes Villanova so great, do you think, Clark?
Well, they can put 5 guys on the floor, Rich, that can all shoot it legitimately. 7 of their guys shoot between 35 and 45% from the three-point line, and 2 of those guys are big guys, Pascal and Spellman. And it really puts teams in a dilemma because very rarely do you have one big guy mobile enough to defend on the perimeter, let alone 2. And those guys are legitimate shot makers from the 3, play bigger than they are. They're not that tall, Pascal and Spellman, but they're long, they're physical, they're strong, and they're bouncy. And so they can play bigger than they are, and they shoot it like small guys.
Yeah, Pascal with 24 points on 10 of 11 shooting.
Now, that was a little beyond his norm. He's probably the worst of the three-point shooters.
Oh, God, against Kansas.
And he's in the 34-35% range, okay? So, and Spellman is up over 40, legitimately. I mean, and this is not a small sample size. This guy has made a big number, a huge number of threes. And, you know, people talk about they made 18 of them. They average 11 makes a game. On the year, 40% as a team. So while that was above the norm, it's not that far off from what they typically do. They've had a handful of games where they've been the Texas Tech game, a case in point, where they've been sub 30% shooting threes. But by and large, they're shooting between 40 and 55% from that three-point line 80% of the time.
CBS Sports' Clark Kellogg here on the Rich Eisen Show on the National Championship Monday. Would you say that the way Villanova is playing, we just mentioned its margin of victory for the month of March was just shy of 19 a game, that you mentioned at the very minimum they've got 4 guys on the floor who can shoot, if not all 5, that Jay Wright and the Villanova Wildcats are changing the way that college basketball is going to be played from here on out?
Well, we see a shift. The three-point line is a huge part of the game, and it's become even larger, and that's not changing, Rich. It's like technology. It's not going away. It's just going to continue to expand and evolve and find greater usage, and the same with the three-point shot. You're going to recruit to spacing the floor, and the more good shooters you can have out there, the more space you have to get three-point shots, but also to drive, to get offensive rebounds when you miss your three-point shots or drives. So clearly the spacing of the floor through the three-point shot is a huge part of basketball, not just college. Certainly the pros have embraced it. Analytics plays a part in that in terms of the value and efficiency of a three and the layup two versus long contested two-point shots. So they're not changing it. The game is changing, and they're actually enjoying the ride of the change and executing that change at a really high level.
So John Beilein, the job that he has done with this team, Clark, I've said that he's the best coach in Michigan basketball history. And I know I'm talking, we're involving Johnny Orr and then the run that Steve Fisher went on with those 6 straight wins on that night in Seattle that hopefully for Michigan's sake they get to repeat cutting down the nets tonight. I mean, what this guy does is remarkable. What do you think he can do this evening, XOs-wise, to pull off what everybody believes will be a major upset should Michigan win?
I think one of the things, X and O, and he's clearly one of the best coaches in our game, has been for a long time, Rich. Wherever he's been, he's maxed out his teams. He's been innovative. He's been detailed. He's been effective and successful. He's one of my favorite coaches in all of college basketball, not just because of how he coaches, but how he goes about a business, how he conducts himself as a man. I just have a lot of admiration and respect for who he is and what he does. X and O wise, you've got to really, I think, control the ball and be disciplined in not going for pump fakes, ball fakes, staying in the gaps, not overhelping. That's a lot. That's a table full of stuff that you got to do, but they're capable of doing it, and they'll be locked in and able to do it. To me, the key is going to be offensively, how efficient can you be in maintaining pace with the way Villanova can score. That, to me, is going to be the key element in the game, and that's going to require more than Mo Wagner. Other guys, Abdur Rahman, Charles Matthews has been terrific for the last 7 weeks. He's got to continue to play at that level, but you need all hands on deck offensively against Villanova, I think, and because Michigan has that capacity, I think they've got a chance to surprise a lot of folks tonight.
And in terms of the Final Four coverage on Saturday, Clark, Wagner coming over the bench, breaking Raftery's lenses, okay? And then Grant Hill looking like, the Mack truck proverbially was heading his way. What's the one moment of your broadcasting career that you felt physically threatened by whatever was coming at you?
I can't even recall one, Rich. And that unique setup with the floor elevated. Right. Creates an opportunity for what we saw. Grant looked to me like one of those pictures you take after being on an amusement park roller coaster. Where you come back and you look to see what kind of faces everybody was making, and he looked like he was on some type of big-time roller coaster going down that big first drop. But I can't recall, based on where I've been positioned, whether doing Pacer games back in the day or what I've done with CBS, I can't recall that in the basketball maybe headed that way, but nobody has come that close to me.
Now, let me ask you, Clark, as somebody like yourself who's played the game at a high level and has broadcasted at a high level, do you give Grant a little grief for having that reaction?
No,
Clark?
no. I wouldn't. I know many of my colleagues and others would, but I'm just not that way. It was a natural, spontaneous look of fear.
So Charles is not rubbed off on you? Is that what you're saying?
That's one way to look at it, I guess. Every now and then I'll take a jab, but not in that circumstance. I think that was one where anybody would have had that expression on their face. I don't care, because you can't prepare for that. How can you control what your face is going to contort into when you got a 6'11", 250-pound guy about to fly into you?
All of Germany coming your way. And plus he just got into the Naismith Hall of Fame. That's the look on his face. Like, I finally get in the hall, and it's going to end this way. That's had to be what he's thinking. So before I let you go into that San Antonio afternoon and night, Clark, what do you think happens tonight?
Man, I tell you, so many folks, and I'm leaning Villanova's way because they just haven't shown any real weaknesses, and they're championship caliber. They've got a couple of guys that have been in this setting. But the upset potential is greater than people think. It's going to take a yeoman's effort. I'm still debating as to what actually I'm going to say when Ernie throws it to me with who you got. I'm still contemplating. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I'm hopeful that Michigan rises to the level offensively, because if they do, it could be as entertaining, I guess, as maybe the 2013 championship game when Louisville and Michigan played in what I thought was one of the more entertaining and competitive championship games we have. Pace of play was good. Shot making was really good, and it was highly entertaining pretty much from start to finish.
Except for the finish for some.
It depends on where you were rooting and what colors you wear. But in terms of an objective basketball fan, that was really fun to watch.
Clark, look forward to it. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We'll chat
pleasure,
soon.
Rich.
You got it.
Now.
That's Clark Kellogg.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.